So I want to throw this at the beginning of the video really quickly because I was unaware of how long this was going to take me to make, the recording process, the research process, and then the actual length of the video itself. Not everybody's going to sit through a 20-something minute video, and I don't expect them to, but if you end up liking the video, enjoying the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share, comment, all that stuff. It really helps me out because this ended up being a much bigger project than I initially realized. Holy shit, guys, we are back, 2019, making a Fallout 4 video. This video is actually pretty long overdue. The last time I did a unique perks video, which was for New Vegas, was about 1.5 years ago. I've done a unique perks video for Fallout New Vegas, for Skyrim, and for Fallout 3. These two have done pretty well. This is one of the earliest videos I ever did regarding the Fallout series. For whatever reason, the Skyrim video didn't really take off. It's got a 100% like ratio, but it just never gained that many views. But the Fallout videos have done really well, and I've been needing to do the Fallout 4 video for quite a while now. So what these videos are about, in case you haven't watched them, we go over every unique perk in the game. What the unique perks are any perk that you can get in-game that you don't get from leveling up, from any other means. So with that being said, let's hop right into it. So to start out, we're going to take a look at the Bobblehead perks. So first up, we have the Barter Bobblehead, which can be found at Longneck Lukowski's cannery on a broken terminal in the north office room overlooking the main cannery floor. And what this does is it permanently grants 5% better prices when buying and selling. Next up, we have the Big Guns Bobblehead, which can be found in Vault 95 in the living quarters area, northernmost room on a radio, and it's guarded by gunners and assaultrons. And what this does, it permanently increases the critical damage of heavy weapons by 25%. Next up, we have the Energy Weapons Bobblehead, which can be found at the Fort Hagen Command Center, Southwest Kitchens, on a small table between two fridges. Note that you will not be able to access the elevator leading to the command center until you begin the main quest, Getting a Clue in Diamond City. And what this does, obviously, is permanently increases critical damage with any energy weapons. Next up, we have the Explosives Bobblehead, which can be found at Saugus Ironworks in the Saugus Blast Furnace with the magazine, picket fences, and steamer trunk on the catwalk, protected by slag and 2 forged members. And this increases your explosive damage by 15%. Next up, we got the Lockpicking Bobblehead, which can be found at Pigman Gallery, on the ground by the center pillar in the last chamber before you exit. It is laying on the ground next to the flaming trash can, and this of course just makes your lockpicking easier. Next up, we got the Medicine Bobblehead, which can be found in Vault 81 in Curie's office, southeast corner of the vault. The portion of Vault 81 that contains the Bobblehead is not accessible until the Hole in the Wall quest has been started, and this increases the healing you receive from stim packs by 10%. Next up, we have the Melee Bobblehead, which can be found in Trinity Tower on a table in the cage where Rex, Goodman, and Strong are being held, and this, of course, increases your critical damage with melee weapons by 25%. Next up, we have the Repair Bobblehead, which can be found at the Corvega Assembly Plant. This explanation is crazy, but we'll read it anyway. On the very end of the top exterior gantry, southwest roof section of the plant building on top of a crate. It is on the top platform on the giant tower with a blue sphere on top with Corvega spelled going around it. When you walk up the stairs to go up, it is on the opposite side where you came up at. Just keep walking around. It is right next to where a MILA gets placed. And this permanently increases the duration of your fusion cores by 10% because there's no repair system in this game. Next up, we have the Science Bobblehead, which is found inside Malden School / Vault 75 on the desk overlooking the subterranean diner combat test area inside the vault building on basement level 3. You need to get the Vault 75 lab access card off the gunner commander in the diner to get to this room. Essentially, just follow the Vault 75 side quest that starts upon entering Vault 75. And this permanently grants 1 extra guess when hacking terminals. Next up, we have the Small Guns Bobblehead, which is found at Gunner's Plaza on the broadcast desk in the on-air room, ground floor, west side of the building. The room is accessible with a key found on either Cruz or Ryder, with the Master Lock skill, or with Kate. What does this do? Critical damage? Do you think it does? Of course it does. Permanently increases critical damage with ballistic weapons by 25%. Next, we have the Sneak Bobblehead, which is found in Dunwich Boars on a small metal table by a lantern, right next to the metal post terminal area number 4. This is the area before the project managers and the deep pool, and this permanently makes the player character 10% harder to detect. Second to last, we have the Speech Bobblehead, which is found in Vault 114 in the Overseer's office on the table behind Nick Valentine. Pretty hard to miss. And it permanently gives all vendors 100 bottle caps extra when bartering. And last up for the Bobblehead perks is the Unarmed Bobblehead, which can be found at Adam Cat's garage on the hood of the rusty car in the main warehouse. And this, of course, critical damage increase 25%. Now, obviously, there are some more bobbleheads. There's the special stat bobbleheads, but these only increase your special stats by 1 each, and those do give you benefits, like the strength will give you more carry weight, etc., but those aren't necessarily perks, so we're just not going to cover those. So from here, we move on to the companion perks. Just like New Vegas, Fallout 4 has companion perks, but unlike New Vegas, these are permanent. So once you get these perks, you don't have to have the companion follow you anymore. There are 13 companions in the base game of Fallout 4. Every one of them gives you a perk once you get their affinity high enough, except Dogmeat. So sadly, he cannot be a part of this. So first up, we have Kate, who can be found at the combat zone. If you get her affinity high enough, she gives you the Trigger Rush perk, which allows your action points to regenerate 25% faster if the HP value is below 25% maximum. But according to the wiki, it says, however, this perk has never functioned this way. When the player's action points are below 25 points, they regenerate 50% faster, which makes this perk a good way to recover those first few action points much faster if one regularly runs out of action points. Next up, we have Cosworth, who's obviously found at Sanctuary Hills. If you get his affinity high enough, he gives you the Robot Sympathy perk. And this will give the player character plus 10 damage resistance against robot energy attacks and other mechanical devices. Next up, we have Curry, who can be found at Vault 81. If you get her affinity high enough, she gives you the Combat Medic perk, which allows the player to heal 100 hit points once a day if their current number of hit points is below 10%. But yet again, according to the wiki, there's a bug for this that says this perk does not work due to a coding error that makes it trigger at 10 or 1000% health instead of at 0.1 or 10%. From there, we move on to Paladin Dance, who can be found at the Cambridge Police Station. If you get his affinity high enough, he gives you the Know Your Enemy perk, which allows you to do 20% more damage to ghouls, synths, and super mutants. Next up, we have Deacon, who can be found at the Railroad HQ, which is found at Old North Church. If you get his affinity high enough, he gives you the Cloak and Dagger perk, which increases your sneak attack damage by 20% and the duration of Stealth Boys by 40%. From here, we have Hancock, who can be found at Good Neighbor. He gives you the Isodoped perk, which reads, the player character's critical hit value increases plus 20% faster if the player's character has 250 radiation value. This equates to 25% of the player's maximum health being filled by radiation damage in order to activate the perk. Next up, we have McCready, who can be found at the third rail inside of Good Neighbor. You get his affinity high enough, he gives you the Kill Shot perk, which grants the player plus 20% accuracy to enemies' heads in VATS. Next companion is Nick Valentine, who can be found at Vault 114. You get his affinity high enough, he gives you the Close to Metal perk. And this reads, the player character has one more guess to dial the password in terminals. Also, terminals have 50% less time to be reset after failed hacking. Next up, we have Piper, who's obviously found outside of Diamond City. If you get her affinity high enough, she gives you the Gift of Gab perk, which grants you double experience whenever you persuade somebody or discover a new location. Next up, we have Preston Garvey, who can be found at the Museum of Freedom. You get his affinity high enough, he gives you the United We Stand perk, which reads, the player character's damage resistance is increased by 20 points, and the player character deals plus 20% more damage when outnumbered at least 3 to 1. Second to last, we have Strong, who can be found at the Trinity Towers. He gives you the Berserk perk, and this allows you to do plus 20% more melee damage if the number of hit points is below 25%. And last up, we have X688, who can be found at the Institute. It gives you the Shield Harmonics perk, which gives you plus 20 to energy resistance. Now we move on to the Far Harbor DLC. This added more perks to the perk chart, but again, those aren't unique perks. There is one companion perk, a couple of magazines, and a couple of quest-related perks. Let's hop into it. First up, for the quest-related perks, we have Crusader of Adam, which is a possible reward for completing the Cleansing the Land quest by destroying Far Harbor on behalf of the Children of Adam. And the effect provides a bonus to your weapon's damage. For every 100 rads, damage is increased by 10%. Additionally, starting at 900 rads, the damage is increased by a total of 100%. Next up, we have the Destroyer of Acadia perk, which is a possible reward for the Way Life Should Be questline, and you get this by wiping out Acadia. The effect is that when your health falls below 20%, you do 4 times the damage for 30 seconds. Next up, we have the Far Harbor Survivalist perk, which is a possible reward for the Cleansing the Land quest if the sole survivor destroys the nucleus. And this gives the player plus 5 to all resistances, including damage, energy, poison, and radiation. Next up, we have the Inquisitor of Adam, which is exactly like the Crusader of Adam. You gotta destroy Far Harbor on behalf of the Children of Adam during the Cleansing the Land questline. The difference here is that if either the Heretic or Witch Hunt was resolved aggressively, the player will receive the title of Inquisitor and the perk Inquisitor of Adam as rewards, but it works exactly the same. And lastly, we have the Protector of Acadia perk, which is given to you by Dima at the end of the Reformation quest. The effects are the player character receives plus 1000 damage resistance and energy resistance for 30 seconds when their hit points fall below 20%. Onto the Islander's Almanac magazines from Far Harbor. There are 5 of these, and each of them are different. The first issue, Pincer Dodge, can be found at Northwood Ridge Quarry at the end of the camp in the cave on the end table beside the steamer trunk, and the effect is 5% less damage from Mirelurk melee attacks. The second magazine, Precision Hunting, can be found at Brooks Head Lighthouse at the top of the lighthouse on a bookcase, and the effect is 5% higher VATS chance against animals in combat. The third magazine, Far Harbor Sightseer's Guide, can be found in Far Harbor in the last plank. It just unlocks locations around the map. It's not even really perks. The second to last magazine, Children of Adam Expose, can be found at Acadia on the counter in the first underground level near the crafting machines. This allows you to take 10% less damage from radiation-based attacks. And the last magazine, Recipe Roundup, is also not very perk-based at all. It can be found at National Park Headquarters on the counter in the Visitor Center. It unlocks sludge-based recipes. And the only companion perk in Far Harbor you get from Old Longfellow, who can be found at the last plank in Far Harbor. He gives you Hunter's Wisdom, which reduces the damage and energy resistance of animals and sea creatures you fight by 25%. Now onto the Nuka-World add-on. This also has a handful of quest-based perks, a set of magazines, and 1 companion perk. First up, we have the Ace Operator perk, which can be attained during the Power Play quest if the operators do not betray you. And the effect is you deal 25% more damage with silenced weapons, and stealth is also increased in shadows by 10% less visibility. Next up, we have the Chosen Disciple perk, which can be obtained during the Power Play quest if the disciples do not betray you. And the effect is kills made by your melee weapons will restore 25% of your action points. Next up, we have Pack Alpha, which can be obtained, of course, if the pack does not betray you during the Power Play quest. And the effect is damage resistance is increased by 25%. You also deal 25% more damage with unarmed and melee attacks. The last quest-based perk is Wasteland Warlord. It has to do with settlement-based items, but we'll just read it really quickly on Wikia. This perk is obtained during the quest Home Sweet Home. The first rank is obtained when the first raider camp is established in the Commonwealth, and the second rank is unlocked upon establishing the third of 3 required settlements for the quest. The third rank requires establishing 8 raider camps. However, this cannot be done, and thus the rank obtained until completion of Power Play, as Shank urges the sole survivor to return to Nuka-World to sort out the problems developing there, and will not issue jobs to obtain more settlements until after that is done. Next up, we move on to the Scav magazines. There are 5 of these, and each of them are different. The first magazine, The Terrible Truce, can be found at Starport Nuka, behind the Starport Nuka building on a box beside the campfire. The effect increases your speech challenge success rate. The second magazine, Fear the Knife King, can be found at Nuka-World Junkyard on the upper catwalk of the warehouse, and the effect is plus 25% combat knife and switchblade damage. The third magazine, Mutant Fist of Steffi Knuckles, can be found at Funhouse in the northeastern corner of the Hypnotic Halls beside a dead raider. The effect gives you plus 10% hand-to-hand weapon damage. The second to last magazine, Nuka Brahmin Stampede, can be found at Grandchester Mystery Mansion in the attic, and the effect gives you plus 5% explosive damage. And the last magazine, No Caps Rage, can be found at Dry Rock Gulch on top of the center building. And the effect you get is plus 1 strength and endurance if you have less than 10,000 caps, plus 2 strength and endurance if you have less than 1,000 caps, and plus 3 strength and endurance if you have less than 100 caps. And last up for Nuka-World, we have the companion perk you receive from Porter Gage if you get his affinity high enough, Lessons in Blood, and this gives you plus 5% more XP per kill and plus 10 damage resistance. Next up, we're going to do the magazines from the base game. We're going to try to do these as quickly as we can because there is a lot of them. So first up, we're going to do the Astoundingly Awesome Tales, which has 15 volumes to it. To start things off, we have the My Brain and I magazine, which can be found at the Boston Mayoral Shelter. It's in the bedroom in the lower level southwest corner on a small table, and this regenerates 1 point of health per minute. From there, we have the Attack of the Metal Men magazine, which is found at Dunwich Boars at the bottom of the pit below Station 3. On the armor workbench. You take 5% less damage from robots. Next up, we have the Rise of the Radiated, which is found at East Boston Preparatory School on a desk in the computer room, top floor, southeast corner, and this will add plus 5% healing with your Radaway. Next up, we have the Invasion of the Zatans magazine found at Huber's Comics on the top floor in the restroom on a table near the steamer trunk, and this gives you plus 5% damage with the Alien Blaster. From here, we move on to the Mad Russian's Revenge magazine found at Pikmin Gallery to the right of the steamer trunk in the last tunnel chamber near Pikmin, and this gives you plus 5 poison resistance. I guess I didn't pay much attention to these magazine names because this one's kind of crazy. I don't even recognize it. It's called A Gorilla Ate My Patrol Car, which is found at Old North Church on a metal desk in the brick crypt area, west area of the room. And you do 5% more damage with the Cryolator. Next up is the Giant Insects Invade magazine found at the Sentinel site in the metal hut at the very end of the tunnels overlooking the stockpile chamber, and you gain plus 5 radiation resistance. Next up we have the Habdog Will Travel magazine found at the Institute on the triangular table on the outside balcony, accessed via Holdren's quarters north of the atrium, and your canine companion permanently takes 10% less damage. From here we have the Rise of the Mutants found at Trinity Plaza on the lectern by the steamer trunk at the east side of the church interior. You do 5% more damage against super mutants. Next up we have the Man Who Could Stop Time found at Vault 114 in the living quarters area on a container in the blocked corridor under the laundry sign, and you gain plus 5 action points. Next up we have the Sinister Seafood Strikes magazine found at Outpost Zamanja, I think is how you say that, on the workshop. You do plus 5% more damage at night. From here we have the Attack of the Fishmen magazine found at Skylane's Flight 1981 on the restroom toilet below the cockpit, and you do plus 5% more damage against Mirelurks. Second to last for this set of magazines, we have the Curse of the Burn found at the Crater of Adam, top floor of the central metal shack built into the northern rocks, and you do plus 5% more damage against ghouls. And last up for the Astoundingly Awesome Tales magazines is the Starlit Sniper found at Coast Guard Pier on the toilet inside the locked cell by the secured storage room. You do plus 5% more damage with scoped weapons. Next up we have the Grognak the Barbarian magazines. This one's a lot easier to cover. There's 10 of them, but they each do the exact same thing, which is add plus 5% critical damage to your unarmed and melee attacks. So all we gotta do is just go over the locations really quickly. So let's try to get through these as quickly as we can. The first one can be found at Wicked Shipping Fleet Lockup, southwest end of the main warehouse in the small office on the desk with the key. Next one can be found at Andrew Station on the bed of the comic book fan's apartment just north of the station. Next one can be found at Sanctuary Hills on the counter inside the Soul Survivor's house. Corvega Assembly Plant on the top floor of the plant beside Jared's terminal. Going up the stairs and jumping across a collapsed catwalk is required to get to Jared's room. You can get a copy inside of either Vault 75 or Vault 81. In Vault 75 you can get it on the bed inside the Overseer's office, or within Vault 81 you can get it for a reward for completing short stories. Another copy can be found at Boston Common in the bandstand near the skeleton close to Park Street Station entrance. Masspike Interchange on the toilet inside the gunner camp by the Power Armor Station. Backstreet Apparel on a table in the middle of the living room on the upper floor of the store. Hyde Park in the Raider camp on the roof of the buildings south of the main road. And last up is the Museum of Witchcraft on the table in the dungeon upper floor south wall. Onto the Guns and Bullets magazines, there are 10 of these as well, and they all do the exact same thing. They add plus 5% critical damage to your ballistic weapons. First one can be found at the BAD-TFL regional office on a desk in the Chief's office bullpen room in the western part of the building. Next one can be found at Cambridge Police Station in a locked safe in the station chief's office, available only after Brotherhood reinforcements arrive at the station. Fraternal Post 115 on the lectern in the stage area by the American flag and sandbags. Fort Hagen on the oval table in the kitchen area, top floor, southeast area. Gunners Plaza, top floor lounge in the table surrounded by sofas, south mezzanine offices. Ticonderoga on the desk of the corner office, northwest corner, top floor. South Boston Military Checkpoint on a table to the right of the entrance. Rook Family House inside Barney's bunker on a metal desk near the lantern and filing cabinet. Quincy Ruins on the desk with the terminal elevated freeway gunners camp between the two big rig trailers. And lastly, the castle on the radio operator's desk in the middle of the castle grounds outside. Now we're moving on to the Live and Love magazines. There are 9 of these, and each of them is different. First up, we have the Nuke the Man magazine, which can be found at College Square Station on the safe behind the counter at the station entrance interior before descending the stairs, and this allows your companions to permanently inflict plus 5% more damage. Next up, we have the I Married a Robot magazine, which is found in the Diamond City Schoolhouse, inside the schoolhouse bedroom, ground floor on the bedside table, and this allows your robot companions to permanently inflict plus 5% more damage. Next up, we have the Live Long Best Friends magazine found at Faneuil Hall on the small table, attic level, just after climbing the main staircase. This gives plus 10 hit points for all companions permanently. Next magazine is An Experience to Remember found in the Hotel Rexford in Good Neighbor on the bar counter just right of the entrance, and this permanently gives you plus 5% experience while adventuring with a companion. Next up, we have the Advice from Married Men magazine found in the third rail, also in Good Neighbor, on top of the toilet in the restrooms, and this allows your companions to permanently gain plus 5 damage resistance and energy resistance. The Trim the Fat magazine can be found at the WRVR broadcast station on the table near the recording desk and wall computer, and your companions permanently gain plus 10 carry weight. Next up we have the Beware the Manhandler, which is found at Bunker Hill at the top of the monument in the center of the camp, and this gives you plus 25% experience for persuading men. The next magazine is Talk Yourself Sober, which can be found at Revere Beach Station on the concrete blocks by the cooking pot and steamer trunk inside the Promenade building upper floor. And this allows you to permanently gain plus 1 luck from alcohol when adventuring with a companion. And last up we have the Secretary Charmer, which can be found at Fiddler's Green Trailer Estates inside the caravan trailer, east side of the estates and swimming pool, plus 25% experience for persuading women. Next up we have the Massachusetts Surgical Journal. There are 9 of these, but they all do the exact same thing. They let you inflict plus 2% more limb damage. We're just going to go over the locations. The first one can be found at the Boston Public Library in the book return machine, and it costs 50 book return tokens. Cabot House on the top floor in the first bedroom to the right. Cambridge Polymer Labs on the director's desk above the reception area. Cambridge Polymer Labs must be completed to reach the room containing the magazine. Greater Mass Blood Clinic on the desk in the lab area behind a computer locked door. Green Tech Genetics on a table between 2 couches in the long hallway halfway up the northern side of the facility. Medford Memorial Hospital on the desk behind the counter on the second floor of the atrium. MedTech Research in the sublevel on the table on the east end of the autopsy counter. Parsons State Insane Asylum inside Lorenzo Cabot's quarters in the basement. And last up, Sandy Cove's Convalescent Home near the reception desk behind the security door on a desk. On to Tales of a Junktown Jerky Vendor. There are 8 of these. They all, of course, do the exact same thing. They lower prices from vendors by 3% with each issue that you read. Let's hop right into the locations. 4-leaf fish packing plant, a basement locker on the bench, western side of the plant. Gwinnett Brewery, catwalk metal hut, upper level along the northwest wall. Climb the pipes and catwalks to reach it. Longneck Lukowski's Cannery on the desk of the potted meat cannery line foreman niche. Super Duper Mart between the cafe and drugstore. Mystic Pines on the table to the left of the main entrance. Walden Pond through the pipe tunnels to the gift shop basement on top of one of the barrels beside the lantern. Big John Salvage on a table in the highest trailer supported by storage containers in the center of the junkyard. Wreck of the FMS Northern Star upper level mid-deck on the paracel table north side of the ship. And next we move on to the Tesla Science Magazine. There are 9 of these, and each of them do the exact same thing. Your energy weapons inflict plus 5% more critical damage. Let's hop into the locations. First one can be found at Arc Jet Systems, located on the second level next to the CEO's terminal. General Atomics Factory in the upper floor office on a metal desk against the west wall, directly above the entrance lobby. Hallucinogen, first floor in the Weaponized Research Lab in the northeast corner. Mocker Fish Packing, lowest floor filleting room on a small table, northwest corner, room below the one with the steamer trunk. Mass Fusion Building on the Computer Bank, 9th floor southeast mezzanine room, upper offices above the glass floor. Poseidon Energy on the metal desk with the bobblehead near the steamer trunk in the central metal catwalk hut. Reba Marina on the wooden bench in the kitchen of the warehouse near the birthday sweet roll. University Points, upon entering the building, climb the 2 sets of stairs on your left and then enter the room and go through another doorway. There should be a large chalkboard on the wall and the book is to the left of that. And lastly, Rocky Cave in Virgil's laboratory on a broken fridge just left of Virgil's terminal. Next up we have the Tumblers Today magazines. There's only 5 of these and they each do the exact same thing. They just make your lock picking easier. Hop into the locations, of course. First up, East City Downs, an Eager Ernie's commentator box on a chest by the sofa. Finn Street Sewer on a cabinet near the end of the sewer in the cells area. Malden Center in one of the train carts near the large raider encampment on the lower floor, on a shelf below the container containing a duffel bag. Poseidon Energy Turbine number 18-F in the control room inside the building. And last up, West Roxbury Station in an open locker on the north end of the eastern platform. Onto the U.S. Covert Operations Manual magazine. There are 10 of these. We're getting close to the end. Each of these are exactly the same. They make you 4% harder to detect while sneaking. So of course, let's hop right into the locations. First one can be found at the Federal Ration Stockpile in Red Tourette's quarters on the desk in the middle of her room. Federal Surveillance Center K-21B on the console beside the mainframe terminal on the lowest story. Fort Hagen Command Center on the bedside table of the basement room just past the armory. Fort Strong Armory on the desk of the general's room of the first floor. National Guard Barracks on a table inside the mess hall. Revere Satellite Array located on the catwalk of the central satellite dish found on top of a small table. The next one can be found either near the Super Duper Mart or near the switchboard. You can find the first one in the sewers below Slocum's Donuts 1 block over from Super Duper Mart, or you can access the other one through the Railroad quest line. The second to last magazine can be found at the USAF Satellite Station Olivia, inside the Intel Room on the center tables, and the last one can be found at the USS Constitution, inside Captain Ironside's quarters on the 3rd floor of the ship's hold. The second to last magazine from the base game, the Unstoppables, there's only 5 of these, they each do the exact same thing. They add a plus 1% chance for you to avoid all damage from an attack. Hop right into the locations. First one can be found at DB Technical High School, in the basement swimming room in the corner near a fat man. Huber's Comics on the front counter beside the cash register. Shaw High School on the table in the back room of the library. Suffolk County Charter School on the desk in the school library on the 2nd floor. And the last one can be found at the Westing Estate near the mattress on the submerged wooden shack. And last up for the base game magazines, finally, we have the Wasteland Survival Guide. There are 9 of these and each of them do something different. The first magazine, Farming the Waste, can be found at the wreck of the USS Riptide on the table in the deck cabin, and this will allow you to heal 50% more with fruits and vegetables. The second one, Insect Repellent Special, can be found at Crater House, west side of the crater on the table of the lower level of a shack, beside a lantern, caps, and gamma rounds. This will allow you to permanently take 5% less damage from insects. And the third magazine, The Bright Side of Radiation, can be found at Egret Tours Marina on the counter of the diner and coolant recharge station. This will permanently let you heal plus 50% more from irradiated packaged food and drink. The fourth one is just like a settlement-based thing and unlocks new decorations. You can find it in Lynn Woods. Don't really consider that much of a perk. The fifth one is also not much of a perk. Guide to Diamond City, you find it at Gorski Cabin. It literally just unlocks Diamond City on your map. The next magazine, Commonwealth Coupon Spectacular, can be found at Nahant Oceanological Society on the metal desk with the typewriter entrance room area, ground floor. Is not in the laboratory building. This will permanently gain plus 10% discount from food and drink vendors. Next up, water aerobics for ghouls can be found at Old Gullet Sinkhole on a concrete block inside the sinkhole by the cooking pot station. You permanently swim 25% faster. The second to last magazine, Self-Defense Secrets, can be found at Ranger Cabin on the sideboard table in the cabin. This will let you permanently take 5% less damage from melee attacks. And the very last base game magazine, Hunting in the Waste, can be found at Sunshine Tidings Co-op in the unlocked cabin nearest to the silos on the floor next to the dead settler body and a red industrial trunk. This will let you permanently collect more meat from animals that you kill. And there you have it, YouTube, every single unique perk in Fallout 4. If you couldn't tell, it was kind of out of order a little bit. I ended up putting the base game magazines at the end of the video. There ended up being a lot more of those than I realized. In this video alone, there were 90 of them from the base game, and I skipped some because there were some that were like settlement-based. You unlock settlement items. There's the ones where you unlock like hairstyles. Those aren't really perks. We're not talking about that in the video. And even with skipping some, there still ended up being 90 of them. And I felt like that was kind of like a dull point of the video. I wanted to put it at the end. This ended up being a hell of a project, but I'm glad I finally got it out of the way. Didn't realize there was going to be this many unique perks, this long of a video, but whatever, it's done. Holy hell, we finally got the unique perks video for Fallout 4 out of the way. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you got to this point, be sure and let me know. Let's just do the outro. If you guys enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, turn on notifications, follow me on Twitter at TheDashingDavid, at my Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.
Give me forever for a while, give me forever for a while. Quit acting like a baby, or at least less like a child.